what do you think success is for shadow work?
Well, it's kind of the opposite of failure. So if I don't, if I don't have a willing spirit, if I don't own that there's something in me that I'm looking to shift, that's a failure. So having a willing spirit to have change
Mm-hmm.
and being willing to own that this is about me.
Fail for you.
Coming into it with an idea, a thought that there's something in me that I know is getting in my way, and I would like to work with that in a way to shift that, is a way to get success. In other words, just having a willing spirit to look at myself, to explore myself, is the first and most important way to ensure success with shadow work. And like I said, if it's the opposite of the failure, it's recognizing the long game of something like shadow work, that recognizing that I won't get the result I'm looking for overnight, that it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
And be willing to invest some energy and be willing to know that when I try something and do something that it's going to take longer. Like, for example, a perfect analogy for this is a tool that I share with my clients, and it's called the 20/200 rule. And you probably have an idea of this when I tell you, but it takes 20 times of doing something new just for it to start to feel comfortable. And it takes over 200 times of doing that new thing or habit for it to become a habit. So if I start something on January 1st, that's a daily habit. 3 weeks into January is when it starts to feel comfortable, just starts to feel comfortable. And then it takes until late July of doing that new thing every day before it becomes a habit, right? So if I take that analogy and I apply that to shadow work, it's to look at, it's going to take some time to have this shift. So if I go and go to a shadow work weekend, one experience where I'm being facilitated in a group environment to help me shift something in me, that whatever I discover there may not stick right away. So maybe I need to go to another one or have some follow-up. Or if I'm going to work with a coach like me and have them work with me in the capacity of shadow work, to recognize, it's not a 1 or 2 session thing. I'm going to spread it out over time and have some consistency, because there I start to work with it and start to make it feel more comfortable to be the new way that I am.
Yeah.
Does that land?
It does land.
Okay, good.
The relationship with the work, the shadow work, leads to different choices that these folks are making in their life.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's where this habit creation thing comes in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Perfect example is I want to be more confident so that I can stand up for myself in my work environment.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of work with IT and finance professionals from the background that I told you about. And so that's, introverts that are very smart, very technically smart, but they want to be more confident in showing up in a group environment, in leading meetings, or saying no to their boss, or negotiating with their boss instead of saying, okay, I'll get that done tonight at midnight because you think it's due tomorrow, and I'll sacrifice my family time for that, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about. So but the goal there is confidence to, I'll call it, bring my contester online. Mm-hmm. Contesting is a function of the warrior. It's pushing back.
Yeah.
So someone will come to me and say, I want to be able to speak up more when someone asks me to do something that I don't agree with, and someone in power in the organization that I'm in. So, when I work with them, it's about, let's start getting you to do that more often in situations where it's not so risky, right? So how do I get it done 20 times when I'm not dealing with the biggest one, but I can find other situations where I could bring some of that contester pushing back energy where it's not so scary and risky for me to do it, so that I'm building up to
You're building a muscle.
That's it. So I love the 20/200 rule.
I like that too.
Yeah, there was I've forgotten his name, but in the Pathways training, there was a guy that taught me about, it was a Russian guy that did some study around people who changed their lifestyle and some of the factors that were involved in that. And this was one of those factors, having the realization that if I just declare on January 1st that I'm going to get in shape without a view of the long game, that it takes 20 times of doing it to feel comfortable, 200 for it to become a habit, I'm destined to be that person who quits after 2 weeks.
Because you haven't enrolled in the journey.
I haven't seen the big picture
Yeah.
of what's required.
You haven't said yes to what's actually required.
I
Yeah,
think
the 200.
Yeah. And that I'm going to have resistance of going to the gym, or I'm going to have internal resistance to pushing back somewhere in my work environment, even if it's not the big risky one, even if it's not with my boss. I am going to have some internal resistance, because that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I've got something in shadow that says, if you speak up, you're not going to get a good result.
You're going to die. There's
Essentially,
there's some
worst case scenario.
There's some survival thing that's enforcing them to be little or to not speak up for themselves.
Yeah. And they put that in their shadow bag because when they were young, there was an experience where they may have spoken up. And the result, the pushback was strong enough by something or some force bigger, usually a person.
Probably ostracization. We have a socialized mind. And
absolutely.
It's always fearing.
Parents, could be teachers.
Yep.
It could be bullying at school.
Yeah.
All that. Yeah. So,
I think of 2 books around this area. Atomic Habit. Are you familiar with that book?
I'm not.
And The Power of Habit.
Not familiar with
2
that
books
either.
that focus on how do we build habits? How do we change? And it's almost this other technical side for what you're talking about, which is having an awareness of what you're embarking upon, like, and really buying in, really enrolling in the long game.
Yeah, maybe having a bit of a plan in place that's about the long game.
Yeah.
Which the 20/200 rule is just a part of that, right? There's other things to do. I can declare publicly that I'm going to make this change.
Yeah.
So there's some accountability I can put in place. You know, a lot of people think accountability is the only thing, but having accountability as a piece of that is wonderful.
Yeah.
It's just not the only thing.
You could probably scaffold a lot of things to help one realize a goal. And you probably need plan A, plan B, plan C. I think of like bank robbers. I don't know why I think of bank robbers. I could think about, I guess, military commanders, but they're going to have like plan A, plan B, plan C, because when plan A doesn't work,
you need to have a fallback.
We got to have a plan B and then a plan C. And think about it with my own physical journey. Like, I thought, you know what? I want to lose some weight. I want to get strong. I'm just going to exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And then that wasn't really getting me the results I wanted. And I was like, well, I'm going to do exercise and yoga. I'm going to try to do this other thing. And then that really wasn't getting me the results. And it was like, well, I'm going to bundle in nutrition.
Yeah, diet.
And it's like constantly, but you're going towards something. And that is clear.
Yeah. Yeah, your comment about having plan B and plan C made me think of the Mike Tyson quote.
Oh, everybody, what is the quote?
Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth.
Yeah, everybody has a plan to get punched in the mouth.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Then you got to kind of show up.
Yeah, or have a plan B and a plan C.
Yeah. Well, I think what he's speaking to is you probably don't plan on getting punched in the face.
Right.
You go out there and say, I'm going to win this fight. I'm going to do all the punching in the facing. I'm going to block everything. Mm-hmm. So I think what he's talking about is accounting for failure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's another, an aspect of that. So back to the point, right? The point here is how do I succeed at shadow work, right? Which is seeing the long game, recognizing that shadow work is a tool and a piece of it. And it will help. It helps tremendously because it takes some of those things that go on in the quiet corners of my spirit, my mind, my soul, that tell me my critic is usually a big one, right? And it begins to shift those so that they're not only are they not so loud and powerful, but they can actually begin to shift to be more a positive force. If I begin to look at them that way, if I look at my really the basis of shadow work is identifying all the parts of myself, right? Which is kind of tied into the whole Gestalt thing that I think we talked about sometime earlier, roles and parts. It's about identifying the parts of myself that I don't accept, that I think are just hurting me, and working with them in a way that I recognize they're just trying to help me, and seeing if they can help me in a better way, a more effective way. Because when the part of me that shows up that says, you better not speak up to your boss.
Yeah.
Right? That part's just trying to help me. It's making me afraid to speak up and speak my truth. As an example to my boss, it could be in a relationship, it could be with my parents or children, anywhere I don't speak up. That part that shows up that stops me from doing that is just trying to say, look, this isn't safe for you and I don't want you to get hurt.
Yeah.
Right? But it's taking away my power. I don't show up powerfully and therefore I don't get what I want. So it's about working with that part so that instead of maybe saying you're a loser, and if you speak up, it's going to be terrible. Maybe that part a subconscious part can start to say, you're fine. Just try it this way. And by the way, I'm just trying to keep you safe. How can you do that in a more safe way?
Yeah, I like that.
A lot of shadow work is about how do I make it safer? And some of that's working with the subconscious parts, and some of it's consciously, like when I'm afraid, and I'm a lot less afraid at this juncture of my life than I used to be. But one of my mentors, Cliff Barry, who created shadow work, said, I just find a way to make it safer. Maybe it's taking smaller steps. Maybe I need to remind myself. Maybe I need to say something out loud so that when I say that, it makes it safer for me. So that's a bit random, but I think it's tied back to success with shadow work.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's not expelling these parts of ourselves.
No, it's accepting them.
It's folding them in.
It's folding them in, and it's embracing them
and loving them.
Yes.
Acknowledging that you're here to help. You're a survival instinct in there. It's kind of the timbre, the tone of it isn't allowing me to realize my full potential.
Yeah. It's stopping me from having what I want, but it's not because it hates me. It's because that part loves me enough to have come online, usually at an impressionable age.
Yeah, and then stay online forever.
One of the questions that a shadow work question is, like I might talk to a part of somebody. I might say, hey, Philip, so there's a part of you that, tells you that you're a loser because there's a risk that if you show up big, you might get rejected. Is that right? And I may ask to talk to that part of you and say, so when did you come online? When did you show up in Philip's life? And he's like, yeah, well, he was 5. And what was going on back then that caused you to show up and start telling him that he's a loser? Well, he wasn't doing things right, and his mother or father or siblings or schoolmates were telling him he was a loser if he did that. So I just kind of did that so he wouldn't put himself in that situation to feel like he did. Right in there, I can start to work with that part. So
yeah,
it's kind of a way that we do shadow work, is working with parts and helping a person to have an awareness of, oh yeah, that part that I've been rejecting really isn't a bad part.